Unionism. Okay, so there's, obviously unions are growing. There's unions for everything. Dock workers, train workers, factory workers. So that all sorts of unions, right? This is that dynamic moment in union history, in worker history. The working class has grown, but now it's organized. Workers, obviously with industrialization, the number of workers grew, but now they're educated because this generation of workers has gone through mandatory education. So they're able to read and write and organize and campaign. They're able to have coherent thoughts as a result of their education. And therefore, they are, they're interested in participating in politics and in implementing ideas that would help their lives out. And so the Labour Party is a manifestation of the rise of the union movement, a new political party that represents the interests of the unions of Britain. And the Fabian Socialists are another political group in Britain, and they are socialists that want moderate change. They're not Marxist. Okay, Marxist ideas never become really prominent in England. And so they want gradual change. They think it's through electing more liberal or electing more socialist leaders that we'll see change, that we'll see more equality created in society. And a prominent Fabian socialist is H.G. Wells, right, the author of War of the Worlds and The Time Machine and some other science fiction books. Which brings me to science fiction, right? It shows this mass society. Who is interested? Who are books like The Time Machine or Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? They totally reflect this time period in that A, they're popular fiction designed to be read by everyone. B, they show that the role of science, right, and how science through technology that has come about through these industrial revolutions, how technology is something that's interesting to people, and that people are interested in science and technology. So I think it's interesting, even though this is a tangent, it's interesting as a symbolic of this era, right? This is the era of dreaming about, underwater submarines or rockets to the moon or Martians. So, moving on. France. After 1871, we have the Third Republic created. Now, in the immediate aftermath of 1871, in Paris, a separate government is created led by radicals in Paris known as the Paris Commune. Now, this government doesn't end private property, but it also doesn't want to give up its power to the government, the Third Republic, that's been elected by the rest of France. Why is this true? Well, remember the lesson of the previous two revolutions, the French Revolution of 1789 and the French Revolution of 1848. In both cases, you had radicals, urban radicals, these sans-culottes, that were disappointed at the degree of change because the people outside of Paris, outside of the working class, were less radical. So they didn't want the same amount of change. So in 1871, there is resistance to a much more conservative government taking over Paris. And so the Paris Commune doesn't want to be ruled by the government of the rest of France. So this is kind of like a minor civil war, right? France attacks Paris, and the Paris Commune is suppressed. And in the process, of course, the Paris communal leaders take over, take hostages like the Archbishop of Paris, and so the Archbishop of Paris, of the Catholic Archbishop, and they kill him when they're attacked, and so it's like there's it's funny how that it shows also the radical nature, the radical anti religious nature of the far left during this time, and that certainly continues to this day, but not without hostages being killed. Okay, so what is the Third Republic? Well, the Third Republic is it's a democracy. Everyone can vote. In fact, Bismarck insists on everyone being able to vote. Why is Bismarck involved? Because, of course, in the Franco-Prussian War, Prussia defeats and captures Napoleon III, and so Bismarck demands a new constitution be written for France. And he wants there to be universal landed suffrage because Bismarck knows that the average person is kind of conservative. The average person is, has conservative ideas, is not in favor of socialism or these radical changes, right? And so therefore, if there's universal landed suffrage, you're not going to have a government that's dominated by urban elites or by intellectuals, but a government that reflects these relatively more conservative values of the populace. And so that's part of the tensions between France and the rest of and Paris. So the Third Republic is not very popular amongst conservatives. The Third Republic there's monarchists that want to restore the monarchy, and other conservatives that disagree with this mass democracy. And so it's because of this lack of popularity from the right, the Third Republic is not very stable. It's constantly dealing with challenges to its rule. The parliaments, the governing coalitions of the Third Republic are weak, and so there are prime ministers that are there for a year, and then their government is replaced as they lose confidence, as the parliament loses confidence in them, and so a new governing coalition has to be put together, or a new prime minister is selected.
Is there a study session tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. How long do you think it's? Oh,
2, 3.
Okay.
We'll be done. So the Third Republic is, and of course the big thing during the Third Republic that results in a lot of turmoil, that increases this sort of animosity between the right and the left in the Third Republic, is the Dreyfus Affair, in which the government, of course, convicts Dreyfus of this crime. Alfred Dreyfus is this a Jewish army official convicted of espionage and spying and treason, and he didn't do it. But the government sort of refuses to admit this for a long time, and also many on the right, church officials and other conservatives are defending the government's position that he is guilty. And then on the left, there's an outcry against what they perceive as the anti-Semitic government, against the unfair imprisonment of a man because he's Jewish. And so the end result is that, because Dreyfus is not guilty, the right looks increasingly isolated and desperate in France. Right? It looks like this sort of fringe movement that's backing an unjust case here because it's sort of stuck in an older mindset. And so the long-term impact is the discrediting of the right, but certainly another long-term impact is the increasing animosity between these different sides in France.